when it comes to a food business, like we're a takeaway business, do you know what I mean? But as far as I'm concerned, you're in my house. When someone comes up for food, when someone comes up or orders food, it's the same as you being a guest in my home. And I want you to, I want you to enjoy it, and I want you to feel like you've been treated really good, like when you come in. So hospitality is the name of it. What I really wanted to do was to create an environment which I was happy working in, and that hopefully my co-workers would be happy in as well. And basically, early on when I started the business, I had the thought that I had was stop focusing on money, stop focusing on making as much money as possible, and adjust your focus onto creating the best possible hospitality working environment for your staff. Is that always possible? Absolutely not. Do we keep trying? Yes. Well-known thing is called ZIPF law, Z-I-P-F, that 20% of your 80% of your business, 80% of the money that you take comes from 20% of your customers. Okay, that doesn't mean you should ignore the other 80% of customers. What you've got to remember is that people are loyal, but that loyalty has to be well earned.
Good afternoon, Barry. Thank you for agreeing to come onto the podcast.
You're welcome. Thanks, Sam.
If you could just give us an introduction of who you are, please.
Yeah, so my name is Barry Fallon. I'm the operations manager and co-owner of Tin Can Kitchen, which is part of a company called the Yard Group Limited.
Who were your influences from earlier on in your life?
Right, well, probably in terms of food, probably the biggest influence my dad. He wasn't a chef, he was a marine engineer, and then he became a musician. But he always used to cook around the house. We'd always have like little parties, and he'd always make food for that. And I always liked getting involved, doing a little bit of cooking, hosting, looking after people, making nice things to eat. And then as I got older, then I worked in the hospitality industry. I got to work with some really cool people. And then when I was a bit older again, I started working in aid work. And when I was doing that, I got to work with, again, fantastic chefs from all over the world, including people like Andy Oliver, who does the Great British Menu. Got to work with her for a little while. And other people who've been all over the world cooking and doing catering projects and stuff like that. And then I don't like football, so I can't mention any footballers, sorry. But I was definitely inspired by people I work with. And I mean, Jamie Oliver, love Jamie Oliver. Not so much of a fan of a Gordon Ramsay sort of a thing. That's a bit outdated in the modern kitchen. Oh, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I'll say it anyway. The shouting and all that, it's a little bit unrepresentative of how we like to work now. It's all about sort of working with people, being respectful, being kind, and then just doing your best when you're doing the job. Yeah. So, but I like, I've always been a big fan of food, and I've always been hungry. Do you know what I mean? So you got to learn to cook when you're hungry all the time, mate.
What values from your early life do you carry with you in life now?
Okay. So it's funny, you don't always attach yourself to the values until you get a bit older. Like my dad was always one for being on time. He's like, get there 5 minutes early. I mean, I was a few minutes late today, which is bad, you know what I mean? But it's one of those things, it doesn't start to wind you up until you get a bit older, and then you realize that does make sense. But yeah, punctuality, especially in the kitchen, in a food environment, being consistent. That was always something that we've strived for in our business, in the Tin Can Kitchen, and when we've done other businesses as well, is making sure that if you turn up on a Monday morning and have something, you get the same quality as if you turn up on a Saturday night and have something. Doesn't matter who's cooking for you, who's serving you. I want everyone treated in the same way. Sorry, you're asking what values from a young age? I guess, yeah, just treating people with respect, and being sort of open, honest, but being kind, and really, when it comes to a food business, like we're a takeaway business. Do you know what I mean? But as far as I'm concerned, you're in my house. when someone comes up for food, when someone comes up or orders food, it's the same as you being a guest in my home, and I want you to, I want you to enjoy it, and I want you to feel like you've been treated really good, like when you come in there. So hospitality is the name of it. Like, yeah.
What did you want to be when you were younger, and why has that changed to where you are now?
Right. So when I was younger, big fan of Arnold Schwarzenegger films and like Rambo and all that, and was super into that. So my plan was I was going to join the SAS, right, which you can't just join, but I was going to join the SAS and be a cook in the SAS. That's what I wanted to do. Then I realized that guns and war are quite scary, and I'm not really that I'm not necessarily built for that kind of thing. So then I wanted to be a musician. I did a degree in music, and then I did a little bit of teaching, started teaching food tech, did my PGCE. Well, no, sorry, I won't say I did my PGCE. I got about halfway through my PGCE, and it wasn't really for me. But then, so SAS, rock star, chef. I got number 3.
Now moving over to education, where did you go to school, and what did you decide to do when you left school?
Right. Okay. Again, the teacher's probably not going to like hearing this, but I was pretty good in school, pretty good at most subjects. I went to Liswery High School. I had a really good D&T teacher, and I liked doing that. I liked doing sort of hands-on stuff, but I was pretty good at science. I was one of those kids who was pretty good at most things. So that sort of doesn't narrow it down then when it comes to career choices. So when I left halfway through sixth form. Again, it's a pattern forming here. I left halfway through sixth form, didn't finish my A-levels. So I started doing a foundation course in art. Did that for a few months, and again, it wasn't quite for me. So I left and I started working in industry, loads of different jobs, different things. Then I went back and I did a foundation year in psychology because I didn't have any A-levels. That's what got me up to university level. Decided I didn't like psychology. It's too much writing, too many words, too many essays, too many names and dates to remember. So then I went, when I was a little bit older, I'd worked in restaurants and bars and nightclubs and doing range of different things. I went and did a music degree because I always played music, and then I graduated from that. And then whilst doing that, though, I was running a restaurant in Cardiff, and I just, as soon as I left uni, I just really wanted to travel. So then I started traveling and doing loads of different things. Then just
If you could change anything about education, what would it be and why?
Ooh. Well, I think what I struggled with in school, as I say, I was quite good at a few different things. I wasn't exceptional at anything, I don't think. But I did struggle to find direction. And even at the point of doing my degree, it was very hard for things to become vocational. It's very hard to point it towards like, this is what job you can sort of do. It's like, because sometimes when you've got so much choice, it can be a bit overwhelming. And you might think to yourself, well, I really like geography, really like doing geography. It's like, well, what am I going to potentially be able to do with that? So like, are you going to become like, you could work in transport, you could work in like forecasting, you could work in all these different sort of avenues. And I think the thing I struggled with in school was knowing what my options were, things like, I think we had a careers advisor in school. I don't know if you guys still have them now.
Yeah.
I think I met with him once in the sort of 5 or 6 years I was in high school. And his basic advice was advising me to get a career. And I was like, okay, that's cool. But yeah, I think if I were to change anything within it, again, speaking as an outsider, I know I did a bit of a PGCE, and that, I was teaching food technology for a few months. I think is helping not plan your whole future out, but give you a little bit of a roadmap and say, okay, here's some interesting things there. But that being said, what I firmly believe in, and especially I say this to my staff, is your skills and your job are not what define you. So you're not, I am Sam, I am a accountant. You know what I mean? It's like, it's what you care about, it's what you're able to do, all those different things. Like, I think that's more definitive. Because one of the things I found, like when I was teaching in high school, is a lot of the kids would say, oh yeah, I'm going to be an accountant. And it's like, oh, I'm going to be, and that's great to have a focus and have something that you're pushing in towards. But I think having a bit more time spent on, that, but then also just developing people's interests as well, and giving value to those interests. Because some of the most successful people I know weren't particularly good at school necessarily, but they had really good interests, and then they kept working at those interests. A friend of mine, he bright guy and everything, and I met him in university, and since he was in high school, he was like writing songs, people writing songs, and now he's like, I see him in sort of a different Flash motor every now and again. I won't say his name but he's had huge success writing songs for people. He's worked on X Factor, he's worked on all these different things, and it's really made a life for him and his family out of something that he's just quite good at. I won't say quite good, very good at, but also cares about and loves doing. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think a little bit of focus on what you're good at, as well as, what your possible opportunities might be in that kind of world.
Moving over to career development, what was your first job, and what was the biggest learning curve from your job?
Right, first job, I had a paper round when I was 11, from when I was 11 till when I was 14, 15, and that was 7 days a week, after school every day, and then Saturday morning, Sunday morning papers, which were like, big things there. Sorry, what was the biggest thing I learned from it?
The biggest learning curve.
Biggest learning curve, right. Biggest learning curve is probably that you don't need to work 7 days a week for £12. And then, my first proper job, I worked in a shop with my friend when I was about 14. And the sort of thing I learned from that was to try and always try your best, you know what I mean? Always be willing to talk to people and to ask questions, and just the main thing you can do in any role, and say, like, I've had lots and lots of staff work with me through the years. A lot of them moved on to do better things. The ones who really do well are the ones who you can see are trying. It's not all about ability. A lot of it is just showing up, getting there and going like, okay, I'm actually going to have a really good go at this, because that is something which is very, very, very hard to teach. You can't teach someone to care like as easily as you can teach them how to chop an onion or make a beef burger or cook a soup or something like that. That those things you can sort of teach, but if they already care about what they're doing, that's really easy to get them in there.
How have you developed over the course of your career, personally and professionally, and why have you developed?
Right, interesting question. Sometimes in your career you feel like you step backwards. You might do something and not every step is a step forward. Sometimes it's a sideways step. I went and worked in aid work for a few years, and really when I was doing that, we were working in sort of refugee camps. We were working with displaced people, incredibly difficult situations. This was in Greece and also in Serbia. I worked in France as well. And, after our sort of, within the aid work sort of world, they don't say mission accomplished. They never say, oh yeah, we've done it. It's always your mission is complete. So like one of our jobs came to completion. I just met my wife. Well, she wasn't my wife then, but we were together for a while. And then we found out we were going to have a little one. So we sort of had to start mobilizing and getting things going. So I literally went back and I worked in a restaurant that my friend had, because I was moving abroad because my wife's American. So I was moving to America with my wife. And I had 3 months basically to make as much money as possible. So I was working in a restaurant, and then in the evening I was going and working in a nightclub. And I was, I think I was about 30 at the time. And I remember thinking, God, this is bit of a step back. I've just been running the biggest, at the time we were the biggest food provider in the largest refugee camp in Europe, and I've been running that project, and I felt like I'd really sort of stepped back. But what you don't lose out on is the skills that you develop and your sort of attitude towards it. So even though I was kind of went back to, earning a bit better than minimum wage and not, I was still like, well, this is what I have to do, and it's short term. So yeah, I mean, working in terms of development, I mean, getting qualified, getting my degree was good because that gave me a lot of confidence. And even though I work in food and my degree is from a music creative background, I'm still able to pull a lot of that stuff over with me. So that does impart a bit of confidence. And also just having a little look back over things that you've done and things you've achieved and people you work with, that's really great as well. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, that person I thought was really awesome and I did some really good work with them. So, I must be doing quite good as well.
Did you have a plan when you set out your career, and what did that look like?
No, didn't have a plan really. No, I didn't have a plan. At different stages you have to plan, and we do plan quite meticulously when it comes to work and stuff like that. So when I left school, again, I sort of wanted to earn money. I wanted to travel. I wanted to base my main pursuit was experiences. Do you know what I mean? Then I had friends though who left school, started families, and their main pursuit then was kind of about security of their family and earning decent money and getting a good balance of work and life. But then I think that's sort of shifted for me. So I sort of started off having a bit of a plan there. I mean, I knew I always wanted to go to university in one way or another because I wanted to continue educating myself. But in terms of like a business plan trajectory, I'd love to say I had it all mapped out from 15, 16, but I didn't. But, just kept coming in with a good attitude to it and being like, okay, I'm going to try this. And the other thing is when you're doing something and you don't feel totally happy in it, quitting's fine, not saying school, but like if you're doing, you're pursuing something and you get into a point, you're like, God, these are long hours. Haven't seen my friends, haven't seen my family. I'm not enjoying this. I get a lot of headache. Turning around and going, do you know what? I'm out. That's totally fine as well. In my opinion, I think that's a really cool thing to do. But yeah, I mean, that being said though, someone said something to me before about the rule of thirds. So when you're doing any job, about a third of the time, it's going to be just all right, just plodding along. A third of the time you're going to be like, God, I hate this place. I wonder if I can, just run away or something. And then a third of the time is pretty great. You know what I mean? It's, this is actually really cool. And I think the thing that I find running a business and that is that sometimes I'm in the sort of, that sort of down third. And I was like, well, hang on a minute. Before you feel too upset or too think back to the, when you're feeling pretty great about this. And it's cycles. It'll come round in cycles like that.
Why would you become self-employed from having a full-time permanent role and you have an opportunity to progress?
Very, very good point. So I started this business in 2020, which, as everyone knows, is COVID. So I started a business. We opened on May the 4th, but I started working with my business partner around about March. All my friends who were chefs then were all on furlough, which meant that they got full pay. A lot of them got full pay. And they weren't going into work. So I was like, all right, I instantly made a bad decision. Classic poor Barry timing. I did have opportunities to progress within the job that I was working in, the last job I was working in, just before running my own business. But I kind of felt like I could do something interesting on my own. I felt like I had the attitude and the experience to do that, and it wasn't about like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to make millions, because as you can probably tell, I haven't made millions, but some millionaires dress like me, it's fine. But I liked being responsible for myself, and I liked doing that, and what I really wanted to do was to create an environment which I was happy working in, and that hopefully my co-workers would be happy in as well. And basically, early on when I started the business, I had the thought that I had was stop focusing on money, stop focusing on making as much money as possible, and adjust your focus onto creating the best possible hospitality working environment for your staff. Is that always possible? Absolutely not. Do we keep trying? Yes. So, it might not be possible because there'll be days when someone's burnt their hand on a fat fryer or chopped their finger or done something, or I really wanted to finish early tonight, mate. I'm like, unfortunately, that's not going to happen, and those are the kind of things, those are the kind of things you can't always do something about. But having a business focus, which is based upon doing the best you can for the customers, the staff, and for yourself as well, that's a good way to go, I think, anyway.
What does success mean to you in your life?
Balance. Family balance. Having a good balance of stress, so that you're not constantly worrying and anxious. I mean, businesses, in my experience, are a lot like having children. The first bit of time that you got them, they can be very, very needy. If anyone's got baby brothers or sisters, they need changing their nappy, they need feeding, they don't sleep right, you're up in the middle of the night. And having a business is a lot like that as well. Like, a few times you're up in the middle of the night because someone's there's a mistake been made, and this person didn't order this and now you got to do that, or this piece of equipment stopped working and you've got to find another thing for it. So yeah, I aim for balance, so that now I've got sort of safeguards in place and processes in place and really good people around me that we can help look after each other and not be constantly at the sort of behest of your business, at the sort of where it's constantly doing that. So the main goal is to maintain balance and be able to spend time with family, be able to have holidays, be able for my staff to spend time with family and for them to take holidays, and not be like, what do you mean it's your wedding anniversary? You can't take next Thursday off. Like, that's my day. Do you know what I mean? Having that level of thing there, and being able to, and ultimately the thing that I found is that actually works really well from a business perspective too, because if you're able to have that level of adaptability, you're then better able to maintain your business consistently.
Moving over to business ventures, what is your business name and where do you operate primarily right now?
Sorry, I'm just going to get some water.
That's fine.
So our business trading name trades as the Tin Can Kitchen. So we opened the first one in Rogerstone, Newport in May of 2020. It's gone really well. So then we opened a pizza place in September, same location, 2020. And we called that Al Forno Pizzeria, which is Italian for from the oven. And so we were running the two businesses side by side then. And then we opened one in Cwmbran that was on Llantarnam Road. We ran that for about 2 years. And then our type of business is shipping containers, which are made into restaurant/takeaways. So they're mobile, we can pick them up and move them, but they're like fully kitted out like a proper kitchen. So you can literally do like hundreds of meals out of there, things like that. I get a bit upset when people say, I'm coming to your burger van. I'm like, it's not a van, hasn't got wheels, it's a thing. But then, no detriment, I've worked in burger vans and some of them are absolutely incredible, but it's a slightly more like a commercial kitchen that we're dealing with. So so the one in Cwmbran, then we got offered a spot in Cardiff. And Cwmbran, the business trade wasn't fantastic. Not anything to do with Cwmbran. I think it was just the location, the timing, how much time we were able to put into advertising it, how much time we were able to put into maintaining it. it wasn't quite singing for us. So we decided then to move that over to Cardiff. And then similar story in Cardiff. We had a really good go for about 6 months. Then it sort of came about that the people from whom we rented the land wanted to sort of, not in any bad way, but they were like changing their terms around and stuff, and they wanted us to sign on for 3 years. And the business wasn't like, the numbers weren't going like that. Like if they were all shooting up in the sky, I'd be like, yeah, but it was. So what we ended up doing was restructuring a little bit. We brought that container back. And now we've merged the pizza operation Al Forno all under the Tin Can Kitchen brand. So it's one big brand now. And so we've gone back to having just the one location for the time being, and then focusing on things like catering for parties. So I've got some lovely weddings and things like that we're doing this year. Catering at events, and then trying to keep the business going day to day with just nice food, nice different things on the menu, all that stuff.
How did you raise the capital to start your own business, and why choose to operate as a mobile unit rather than having a set premises or building?
Excellent question. In terms of raising capital, without going into it too far, we had investors. And they helped us get going. So I know other people go down different routes, like they might get a small business loan, they might use their own savings, they might use money from family. We had an investor, so that was really, really helpful. Sorry, what was the next part of the question?
And why choose to operate as a mobile unit rather than having a set premises or building?
So we really like the idea of using shipping containers because they're very hardy, they're very stable, and you can really make them into like a top quality sort of high spec kitchen. So that was why we chose to use that. And the good thing about being mobile, as I sort of touched on a minute ago, is that when you have a location and it might not be as good as it could be, you can pick it up and move it. If we, Sam, opened a restaurant in this room, we might spend 20, 30,000 pounds fixing it up to be a lovely kitchen. If it turns out it doesn't work, we can't necessarily take that with us. And so with us, we're able to invest in our kitchens being really as good as they can be. And then we've got the freedom to pick them up and move them around. They're also what we call modular. So that means that if I have a greater need, I can put another one in next to it, and I've got a prep space, or I've got office space, or I've got a space for a pizza oven, or all those things as well. So that's why we like that also.
How do you source the supplies for your products and services, and what impacts have you faced over the supply chain in recent years?
Fantastic question. So we use a range of different like cash and carries, wholesalers, things like that. And then even, some stuff we can get like sort of shipped to us. Certain products are very hard to find. Like we do loads of gluten-free stuff. And that's like a big thing now because lots of people have got gluten sensitivity or gluten intolerance. So, that as an example, gluten-free breadcrumbs for making like fried chicken and burgers and stuff like that. I have to get that sort of shipped to me, ordered in quite large quantities and things like that, in order to make sure that we're able to get it there. During the 2022, when you had the sort of start of the Ukrainian conflict, we found that oil prices went up for vegetable oil, not like fuel oil prices, but like global economy will always have an effect on things because it can drive prices up or down. Due to the conflict in Ukraine, as an example, a lot of the oil, the cooking oil that we use, in chip shops, in burger vans, in all the different kind of places, a lot of that actually came from that part of the world. So when I started off, 20 litres of cooking oil was £17.99. It went up to £60 for the same thing. So more than tripled in price. And then you've got to think as a business owner, right, how am I going to deal with this? I can't just suddenly start charging the customers lots more. That's not really fair on them. And most likely it's going to wind them up and they're going to go the other way. Things like one thing that you need to do is constantly have your ear to the ground with things like that, and be having those sorts of discussions. And I've got really good suppliers who I've built really good relationships with, to the point where they'll just turn around and be quite honest with me, and they'll be like, look, cases of Coca-Cola, mate, are very expensive at the moment. You might want to switch to Pepsi. Other soft drinks are available. But it's having that sort of good thing there, and just being conscious of it as well. It's not just getting to the end of the month and going, oh, there's my bank balance. Why is it so low? It's all about going, oh, hang on a minute. I'm going to take care and consideration at every little step and go, okay, am I getting the best price for this? Am I getting the best quality for this? And one thing I don't agree with when it comes to businesses, and I really dislike, is what they call shrinkflation. Which is where they just make stuff smaller. Do you know what I mean? Like, it used to be years ago. I remember, do you know Cadbury's cream eggs?
Yeah.
Yeah. Years ago, they started making them smaller, and they did an advertising campaign that says, they haven't got smaller, you've gotten bigger. And someone was like, well, hang on, you're just like gaslighting us now, lying to us, because basically you have made your product smaller. And as a restaurant, it would be quite an easy thing for me to say, right, okay, there's your burger that you had last week, but I'll make it 50% smaller. Therefore, I save money, and then you're suddenly unsatisfied with what you have. And especially working with food, you can't get rid of the quality. You've always got to keep that going, because that way you'll always keep people coming back and keep them sort of satisfied.
What demands do you face as a business, and why would this impact on how you operate, and why?
Okay, so what demands do we face as a business?
Yeah.
Well, lots, really. That's kind of what a business is dealing with a lot of different demands. I mean, sort of generally speaking, I mean, you could be talking about things there like wage increases, stuff like that. That's something that you have to be quite conscious of, is that most years over the last few years, the living wage has increased, the national living wage, and as such, we've had to sort of look at how we do business and see if there's ways of saving money without just charging more for everything. We work very closely with local councils, local government, things like that. Trading standards are another group that you have to work with. I mean, we've had times when they turn around to us and say, okay, this is how you're doing something, we need you to do it differently. And then we have to adjust our sort of processes because of that. And that is difficult for a business. You get used to doing something a certain way, you've got to switch and change it. So.
What is your USP, and why do you stand out?
Right, our USP is that we provide high quality food at a reasonable price delivered. That's what we do. We put a lot of focus on flavour, and we put a lot of focus on quality. So my thing is, I always try and look at making sure that we're getting repeat custom, and making sure that people are coming back time and time again, because it's quite a well-known thing. It's called ZIPF's law, ZIPF, that 20% of your 80% of your business, 80% of the money that you take comes from 20% of your customers. Okay, that doesn't mean you should ignore the other 80% of customers. What you've got to remember is that people are loyal, but that loyalty has to be well earned. You know what I mean? So I always think about that, and think about that, if someone comes down, like I said earlier, if someone comes down on a Monday morning, they're getting delivered exactly the same experience as if they come down and, on a Friday night and they're getting that thing going on there. It might be a bit of a longer wait because we're busy, but it's about providing consistency and quality and always making sure that that is at the top of the game there. I mean, you know, I've had suppliers come round and say, oh, I've got these amazing Wagyu beef burgers. I'm like, great, man. Can I sell a quarter pounder for £4.79 or whatever it is at the moment? Is that possible? And they're like, well, no, it's not possible. I'm like, okay, well, let's do within the constraints of what we're able to do. You know, let's do something that's a reasonable price, that is good for the customer, that we're able to actually maintain the business by selling, because you could totally sell it for less than it's worth and then you'd be closed in 6 months, which isn't necessarily a good business model. Yeah.
How do you promote the business and grow your platform? How do you track customer engagement?
Cool. So good thing with that is that there's lots of help now, especially on platforms like Instagram and Facebook, where you can look into the analytics and that kind of thing. Same with Google as well. Like, it'll actually send you, like, even I just get notifications on my phone and I can see how my engagement is looking, things like that. The other thing that you need to sort of look at is raw sales data. You know what I mean? Like, for example, we use like Just Eat and Uber Eats and things like that, and we'll sometimes put offers on via those platforms, but you can see quite effectively if they actually work or not. So, I mean, in terms of engagement, it's great to put up, you know, I could put up a photo of, I don't know, I could put up a photo and everyone would be like, oh, we love this is so great, this is so cool. If it doesn't actually transfer into sales, then you've got to look at if you're doing it to build your brand or build your customer base. So I don't know, it's quite, yeah, I mean, I think you have to be seen as well, and not every post you put on Instagram or Facebook is about getting the sales in. It's about interacting with your community as well. And stuff like this is interacting with your community, you know.
Do you face any political pressure or environmental pressures? And if so, what are they, and why would any business owner consider these factors?
I think we touched on it a little bit earlier. But like I mentioned about the Ukrainian conflict and that having an effect on there, I think it's something to consider, certainly, because, you know, you can look at like, you know, I think in the last sort of, I don't know what they call it, not like a mini budget, but the last quarter, we've seen a sort of shrinkage in the economy. And a lot of that was put down to the hospitality industry as well. Like, you know, so the food and the drinks industry had a small sort of step down. And I think sometimes it can be that people get a little, you know, conscious of things happening, or they feel a little bit of unrest, and so they don't know whether they're, you know, like, they don't know if their mortgage is going to go up. So hang on a minute, am I going to go out and spend my money, or am I going to go and look in the back of the cupboard, see if there's a can of beans in there or something to have? Like, you know, and we get that. I get that. You know, I'm a dad. I got like my kid to think about, and our family, and you know, my wife and I both work, and a lot of the decisions that we make are based upon how we feel things are going. Like, you know, and if we're like, okay, you know, are we going to go through like, you know, are things going to change? Are things going to change around? You know, are we going to be struggling? And it can be a consideration. It definitely is a consideration as a business owner as well. You might think, you know, I don't really like the term pro-business, but like if a part of the government, say we were having a change of government, and someone come in and they're, oh, we're very pro-business, we're going to give you X, Y, Z, you know, things that allow you to do it. Of course, you have to sort of think about those things if you were going to try and grow your business. Like, we've made the decision to somewhat scale back our business because the growth wasn't sustainable, in as much as simply growing, getting bigger, doing more things wasn't generating an overall benefit to us as a business. So I think you have to sort of, you have to be aware of what's going on. I mean, in terms of political pressures to us, I wouldn't say that we do get particularly put on there, but certain things are considerations, like national insurance going up. That's something that you have to think about, and you have to make that decision. Then you're like, okay, how am I going to afford to make sure I'm paying my staff and recognizing the people who are working really hard? Can I do that? It's like when the national minimum wage or the living wage goes up, that's a really positive thing, because I want people to have more money just in general. I think that's a great thing. But what you have to then look at is, okay, well, test. We're not on fire. But what you then have to look at when it comes to the national minimum wage going up is like, okay, what about my more senior staff who've got more experience and they're working harder? How am I rewarding them in line with that, so that they're not feeling sidelined by it? So as those things change, you've got to adapt to it and just be thinking about it and going, okay, what am I going to do to make this better?
Would you choose to operate in a new premises such as Newport Market or a shop? If you wouldn't choose to do so, why is this?
Yeah, I'd love to. It'd be great. They're quite. We've had some experience putting what we call putting out offers to tender for those kinds of places, and yeah, I'd love to do something like that. I think for us, we're quite a varied menu. We've got quite a big one, and often what you see in those kinds of places are quite bespoke. So they'll do a very sort of specific thing. Whereas with us, we're quite a wide cast menu. We're all based around the sort of, the main thing is the sort of Cajun inspired, which is Southern inspired things. That's a big thing for us. But yeah, we'd love to look at the idea of it. I think it's all about looking at what those places are offering, though, and whether you can make it work. Really, it's if you can actually go in there and go, okay, it's fantastic to go and do something like that. But if you look at the overall thing and think, right, well, hang on a minute, in order for me to run this, I'm going to have to make £20,000, £50,000 a week. Then you've got to go, is that really possible? Do you see what I mean? So you have to look at anyone going into doing something like that. I'd say look at what your expenses are, how much you can realistically charge for your food, because like something my dad always used to say when I was younger again was things are only worth what people are willing to pay for them. Do you know what I mean? Like Coca-Cola is only worth whatever it is now, £1.50, because no one, people aren't going to pay £10 for a can of Coke. Do you see what I mean? So it's like you've got to look at what you're doing and what you're making, what your business product is, or what your service is, and then you've got to understand what the value of that is, and then, right, can I make a profit through doing this? It's not even about, and a profit is a wonderful thing in a business. Profit is fantastic. It's a new car, it's nice holidays, it's doing those things. Profit is actually something you kind of think about a little bit later, after you think, right, can we make enough that we can do this and we can live successfully and live our lives whilst doing it? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. As a food supplier, how do you ensure sustainability when it comes to your food packaging and products?
Very good, yeah. So obviously there's certain changes in legislation now. So we only buy biodegradable packaging. Obviously there's some plastics that you just can't get away from because you need them for certain things. But yeah, it's all about actually going and looking at what people are doing and looking at their sort of sustainability when you're getting stuff from third parties. In terms of food as well, that's another thing that is it can be sort of quite difficult there. But if you're getting stuff from sort of reputable places, and you're working responsibly, you know what I mean, rather than going like, okay, like I'm going to buy this from this guy because it's really cheap. It's like, okay, well, where's that product come from? Do you know what I mean? Or why is that so marked down, or what have you? And then, yeah, I mean, we try and encourage through like our menus and stuff like that, we always try and encourage people to try other things as well. Like, we all do loads of plant-based stuff because that's a big thing as well. And I think that's a good thing to be part of. But again, also is I like to think that what we do is a treat. Do you know what I mean? It's like okay, we're going to make this and it's going to be a treat for you. Not that we have like a Burgers Anonymous thing where if someone comes there 5 days in a row, we're like, hey, you okay? Do you need to talk to someone? But the other thing is because we do make it's minimally processed what we do, and we use our own. Make our own burgers, we do our own chicken, and we know that there's only sort of that ingredient in there. If someone is sort of relatively healthy, then I'm sure they can have a burger every other day or something and not be in too much trouble,
Now, Barry, that's all the questions we have for today.
Okay.
So if it's okay with you, we'd like to go over to the quick fire questions.
All right, go for it.
Do you have any nicknames?
Right. When I was growing up, Barry Cook was one of the more recent ones. And weirdly, my surname is Fallon, but for years I used to be called Barry Logan, and I don't know the reason. Still don't know the reason. Like, it was just Barry Logan or Logan, that was one.
What is your favorite food?
Oh, tough one. I love like dim sum, like good Chinese dim sum, or like gyozas, stuff like that. If it was like a last meal kind of situation, that's what I'd be going for.
What is your favorite show?
I don't know. Weirdly, I'm not. So I got really into. It's not necessarily a show, but I got really into this thing called The Outdoor Boys on YouTube, where it's like they go out and they build like shelters and he survives in the Arctic and all that. Like, so generally I'll come home from work, and if it's late and my wife's asleep and I don't want to say much, put a little headphone in and I'll watch a little bit of that, and picture myself in the Arctic wilderness, and then be quite grateful that I'm just in bed.
Who was your role model?
My dad. Yeah.
What are your non-negotiables in business?
Respect, kindness, punctuality.
What are your pet peeves?
Lateness, disrespect, and it's like that. Those are the two. Disrespect, I think, covers a lot of it.
If you could own another company in any other industry, what industry would this be?
I'd love to do something within sort of sustainable energy. So it put me on the spot a bit there. I didn't even know I was going to say that, but yeah, something like that, like working in that kind of thing, or as I say, sort of working with aid work kind of thing again, or something like that would be really cool.
What is your biggest frustration in running a business?
It's 5,000 little frustrations. It's what it is. That's the biggest frustration. It's not one big problem ever. So it's never one big thing. It's always 5,000 little things. So I don't. It's hard to say. I don't think there's one thing that I would just flip and change if I could. But there's lots of little things that make it quite difficult.
What do you enjoy most about running a business?
I like working with people. I like seeing people have a good time with us. I like people coming and spending their money and then leaving and feeling good. Like, we all spend money on things every single day, and not every time you spend money on something do you feel good about it. So my hope and my aim is with everything that we do that if someone's willing to part with their cash in order to have an experience or to have a meal with you, I want them to be really happy. That's it.
And what is one key message for anyone looking to start a business?
Plan, and when you plan, leave room for yourself. And what I mean is to leave room for yourself, for your family, for your life. do that. Don't go, oh, well, if I work 95 hours a week, I'll be okay, because it doesn't really work. You've got to plan and leave room for what's important, your family, your friends, that kind of thing.
So that's everything we have for today, Barry. So thank you for agreeing to come on the podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks very much for having me, Sam. Good hosting.